Hello to anyone watching. This is the Just Search presentation on personal brand and how to use it. These are going to be some tips and suggestions on how to build and utilize a strong personal brand, specifically within recruitment, but it can be transferred to anything across platforms such as LinkedIn. If you are interested in developing personal brand and understanding how you can utilize that to generate sales and network, then hopefully this presentation will give some useful tips. So firstly, what is a brand? Obviously, you'll hear the word used quite regularly, especially within marketing. There's consumer brands, so the way that a company is marketed to people that would want to buy their product. There are things like personal brand, which we'll talk about now, is how you market yourself rather than the business that you work for or the products that you're selling. And then there's also things like employer brand. So what's it like to work for a company? What does it mean to work there? And businesses are paying a lot more attention to brands now more than ever. Brands are valued very highly for these businesses. A lot of time you'll buy things just because it is a certain brand rather than the quality or details of the product. And the thing about brand is it's very, very hard to actually describe what a brand is. In general, just the definition of a brand varies massively depending on who you're speaking to. There are a few definitions of brand here. So the top one is the intangible sum of a product's attributes, which to me doesn't really say all that much. It's a very vague term, and that doesn't necessarily quantify things like employer brand and personal brand. I think the one that speaks to me the most and the one that I think makes the most sense is the bottom one, which is a brand is not a logo, a brand is not an identity, a brand is not a product. A brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization, which is very important because that bottom quote, which is people decide emotionally and justify logically, is very, very true and very transferable to any decision that you make. It's not just about buying a product, it's also about where you choose to go on holidays, about what you choose to do with your life. It's lots of decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis. You don't generally weigh up the pros and cons of everything that you're doing. You don't think logically, does this make sense? You think, I want to do that. That's cool. That's interesting. I like that. And it's the same with all brands. So you might buy a product just because Apple have just released it and all of your friends have it. You don't need the new product, but you want it because it feels nice to have and it looks shiny and new. You might decide to work with somebody in a business capacity because you like the person rather than because their product or service is the best. So brand really has to be emotive, and that comes true of personal brand as well, which we'll go on to in a little bit. So brands done well. I'm sure anyone watching this presentation will recognize some of the brands at the bottom. These companies have spent many, many years developing their brand, and it's not just the logo, it's the company mission, the company values, the taglines, the products, the services, everything that they've done has been in line with the brand that they've wanted to create. Disney don't make horror movies. It's not on brand. Apple make sure all their products are aligned on how they look, how they feel. Mercedes have never made a super budget car to rival the Renault Clio, basic level. They stick to the brand that they've built, and they're a brand of quality and certain level of car. The same with Nike, the same with Google, and the same with Spotify. So some of these companies actually have valuations on their brand. So how much does the brand actually add value to the business itself? And these are in the hundreds of millions in some cases. People have been shown to buy a product just purely because of the logo on it, rather than the fact that there are better alternatives out there in the market. So doing this for your business is very important, and a lot of companies around the world are trying to develop a strong brand. And it's very difficult to do. It doesn't just happen overnight. It takes a long time and a lot of consistency and dedication. And the same is said of personal brand. Personal brand can also have value. If you want to talk it in recruitment terms, you might bill 200 grand in a year. But if you had a stronger personal brand and more people like to engage with you and clients liked you more because of the content you're putting out there on LinkedIn or on social media or anything, you might have made 10% more deals. And so your personal brand could be worth £20,000 a year in billings. And it's very, very possible. I've known very good recruiters and very good salespeople who have generated far more revenue by being active on social media and having a strong brand out there than those who don't. So there is definite value to be had in this. It's not something that's just a nice to have. There is tangible ROI on having a strong personal brand. So what is a personal brand compared to any other brand that you might see? A personal brand is entirely down to you. It's how you individually are perceived rather than the business that you work for or the products that you sell. Some good examples of personal brands would be, take these people. So we have The Rock in the top left there. The Rock is the highest paid male actor in the world, and he's never going to win an Oscar. He's hardly Daniel Day-Lewis or Leonardo DiCaprio. He doesn't have the acting range of really anything, but he's very, very good at building his brand. Everything that he touches seems to turn to gold. His movies generate huge amounts at the box office. Every endorsement he becomes a part of, like Under Armour, does incredibly well because he's very, very active out there promoting himself. It's not just down to the fact that he, has the name The Rock, which is synonymous with action and cool and healthy living and training and all those kind of things. He's kind of exceeded that and gone above and beyond into all these different areas. And he's always worked with high quality people. So The Rock's marketed himself very well to become extremely successful in something that he's arguably not really that good at. And then look at top right. I think that's Kylie Jenner. I don't know them very well. But, she is one of the youngest self-made, in quotation marks, billionaires. What does she actually do? She puts her face and name to products like makeup lines and things like that. And through doing that, just by promoting herself, she has been able to promote these other products and services to the point where they're making billions of dollars. She isn't really known for anything. She wasn't the first woman to fly solo around the world. She didn't cure any serious diseases. She hasn't done anything of note other than market herself incredibly well. Bottom left, you've got Elon Musk. I'm sure everyone knows who he is. He started out by starting PayPal, which was brilliant, but he didn't really rise to fame until he was heading up Tesla. And now, no matter what he does, if he puts his name to something, I guarantee it will get a lot of media attention and do very well commercially, because he as a person is known for delivering high quality products and being involved in very exciting projects. And then bottom right, you've got Richard Branson, the CEO of Virgin. He has promoted himself just as much as Virgin very well over the years, so he's incredibly famous. Now, you might just think, oh, well, it's the companies that made these people famous. Richard Branson is famous because of Virgin, and Elon Musk is famous because of Tesla. But, the people who are watching this, can you name the CEO of Microsoft? It's not Bill Gates. Bill Gates is very good at personal brand, but the current CEO of Microsoft. Do you know the current CEO of Google? Do you know the current CEO of Samsung? All of these very big businesses, bigger than Virgin, but you don't know who the CEOs are because they haven't put effort into their personal brands. They're working on the business brands. Whereas other CEOs, you will know because they have put effort into personal brand. So that's why it's important, because it's very transferable. No matter what Richard Branson does, or The Rock does, or Kylie Jenner does, or Elon Musk does, you will be interested in it. Whatever service or product or business they're affiliated with will get attention because they have raised their personal brand. If the CEO of Microsoft moves to another company, you probably wouldn't even know because they don't have a strong personal brand. Now, this is where it gets into the technical side of things, and how do you actually build a personal brand and how do you maintain it? Now, these rules I got off a very good video on YouTube. I won't say these are my own rules. I didn't make them up, but they are very, very important. It's something to bear in mind whenever you're posting, whenever you're making a plan, whether that's a 1-month plan or a 6-month plan or a year plan or a 10-year plan for your personal brand. Always bear these things in mind. So I'll talk through them now. Number 1, specialization. You can't be an expert in everything. If you want to build a personal brand, you need to be known for something. If you're posting on LinkedIn about football one day and then politics the next and then recruitment the next and then movies the next, you don't gain a following. You don't have a demographic that follow you for specific content. You could be a generalist and you could write interesting things about all of that, but you'll never get the traction to be a thought leader within your space. You need to pick an area of specialism that you are known for and that people come to you for, and you will build a following based off the back of that. When you're picking your specialism, it should be something that's going to be commercially beneficial. So there's no point picking your specialism in football if you're a recruiter, because it's not going to generate any more business for you. It makes sense to align it with what your business does and what you do. So if you're a recruiter for executive assistants, your specialism within what you're trying to do with your personal brand should be around helping executive assistants, being a thought leader in that space, posting lots of content that they would find interesting and engaging, so that when it comes to approaching them about jobs or whatever you might be doing, you already have a following, and these people like what you've posted and they're more likely to engage with you because they feel they know you based on the thoughts that you've put out there. So pick an area of specialism. Now, that doesn't mean just post about that. That's really like the backbone, it's the spine of what you're doing. There's a theme running through everything that kind of relates back to specialism, but of course you can post other things every once in a while. If every fourth or fifth post is about football, that's fine, because you're interested in it and it's okay to do. When I'm posting, the majority of my things are around my recruitment market, but every once in a while I'll post something that I just find interesting, or something funny might have happened to me that I want to share with the wider world. And people engage with it because I have a good following and they know that most of my content is relevant to them. And sometimes it's just something funny or interesting that they wanted to hear. The next is leadership. Be a thought leader. You aren't there to just share other people's stuff. You aren't there to follow what people say and not say anything. You have to put yourself out there. You have to come up with new ideas that are going to potentially change the way people think about your specialism. You have to be bold. And this all sounds kind of scary, because not everyone necessarily feels that they are a leader, and not everyone wants to be a leader. And when you think of leader, you think of having an army of people behind you, all following and hanging on every word, but that's not necessarily the case. You could be a leader to just 3 or 4 people, but if you're posting things that they really like and they follow you and they listen to what you say, you are inherently then a leader. So make sure that the things you are saying have value, and it's not just empty words that you've heard somewhere else before and you're repeating. That's not the sign of a leader. The third is personality. What everyone tends to do in a business capacity is to put on business language. The hope you're well, and hope this email finds you well, and all these kind of business words that you've heard a million times before in emails, and that everyone falls into the trap of writing because they feel if they speak normally, it doesn't look as professional and therefore reflects poorly on them. But when you're talking to people in real life, you don't speak like this. The way that you would read an email is very different to the way that you would speak to somebody. And if what you write, if you're going to post a LinkedIn status, for example, isn't something you would say to your friends while you're sat around a dinner table or at the pub, then don't write it. It has to be in your tone of voice and your language. I'm not saying use swear words or too much slang or anything like that, but speak naturally. Read it back to yourself and see if it sounds weird when you actually say the words rather than reading them. And also personality in the sense of have your sense of humor in there. Write a joke if you want to write a joke. Give your opinions. It can't just be facts and things that you've read somewhere. It has to be what you believe and what you think about that. And if that's what you believe and that's your personality, then put it in there. Not everyone's going to like it. That's kind of the key message. But a lot of people will. And the one thing you can consistently be is yourself. If you're trying to be something else, then you will find that it varies from post to post and day to day, because it's not really the true you. And so you're trying to find something different every time to please other people arbitrarily, because you don't know what they're going to like or what they're not. But what you can do consistently is be yourself and use your own personality. The fourth thing is distinctiveness, similar to leadership in the sense that don't ever just share what other people have posted. If you're doing anything on social media, like LinkedIn, for example, or if you're making videos or anything like that, there's no point spreading the same message as everyone else. Try and come up with something original. Now, this doesn't have to be groundbreaking. You're not going to completely redesign your entire industry with one thought, but just have a think about what you personally, individually think. And that's why opinions are very important, because your opinion probably is going to be more distinctive than just reposting some facts that you've read somewhere. Being different and having a different thought, whether it's something people agree with or disagree with, is going to make them engage with you. If they disagree with you because of your opinion, they're going to tell you they disagree, and that's not a bad thing. You know, having discourse and having people disagree with something that you say is often very constructive. If you're offensive, that's very different. But having an opinion that people might agree with and disagree with is open or way of getting engagement. You know, not everything that Elon Musk says is going to be something that everyone agrees with. He thinks artificial intelligence is a huge danger to society. And a lot of people think artificial intelligence is potentially the most beneficial thing that could ever happen. So people do disagree with things that he says and does, but he still says them because people engage with what he says. The fifth thing is visibility. You have to put yourself out there. Again, this is a scary thing, especially if you're just starting on this journey and just starting doing personal branding posts. The first one is always the hardest, I guarantee, because we as a society are kind of ingrained to believe that if somebody doesn't like your post, then that means it's a failure and you haven't done something that's good enough for other people to warrant giving you feedback in a positive way. You know, it's just because of the social media world that we live in with Instagram and Facebook and all these other things. People live for likes. And so actually putting yourself out there and being visible and saying things that you think is daunting. But you have to. It's the only way that you're ever going to build a personal brand, or any kind of brand, is for people to actually see what you're doing. So just go for it. Put yourself out there. Share a picture, you know, that you've taken that you think was good. Write a post. Do a video. Do anything to just make yourself visible and make people see you. Think of a platform where you have a lot of scope to be visible to lots of people. A tip for this is when you're on LinkedIn, try and get as many connections as you can. You know, there's no point posting on LinkedIn if you only have 5 connections. There's very little visibility there. Whereas if you have 10,000 connections, anything you post is going to be seen by 10,000 people. If any of them like or comment on it, their network of however many thousand people could potentially see it as well. I've done posts in the past where I had 5,000 connections and it's had 50,000 views because of the amount of engagement it got. That's the visibility that you need. You know, The Rock doesn't make low budget movies in you know, random countries where nobody's heard of him, that nobody's ever going to see. He makes big blockbuster movies with the widest possible audience to raise his personal brand. The same with Richard Branson. You know, if ever he does anything, he does it on a global scale. He doesn't just go and do talks at a tiny little business in the middle of nowhere in Northern England. He will do seminars that are advertised worldwide. So visibility is obviously important if you want to get a lot of traction. And then the final part is persistence. Don't give up. You will want to, because the return on investment does take a long time. It's not necessarily going to happen overnight. You won't get people ringing your phone after the first post and saying, please work with me, I want to give you loads of money. It doesn't happen like that. You probably will get 1 or 2 likes on your first post, unless you do a really, really good one, which it could blow up straight away. It does happen. But it's likely it'll start very slow, and it builds up over the course of weeks and months and years. And being a thought leader and being somebody that people follow takes a lot of time. But once you have it, you then just manage it, and the momentum's already there. And you use that brand and you can start to utilize it, and you can leverage it, and you're known, and all the great things that come with having a strong brand will then be very, very long term once you build it up. But it takes a while. And a lot of people will do 5 or 6 really good posts and then think, nothing's happened here, so I'm just going to give up. I please urge you not to. Think of this as long term. Think of this as getting fit and healthy. You won't go on one run and then expect to be 10 times fitter and healthier and live longer. You have to make a commitment. This is going to be something that's a change to your working lifestyle long term. And if you do, and you keep going with it, I guarantee you will start to see the trickle down effect, and you'll start to see results at some point. I can't tell you exactly when, but you will start to see results. So be persistent with it. And that's pretty much the key message. So personal branding recruitment, how does this help? You can become a thought leader. So people come to you with ideas and you can share them, and people want to hear what you have to say. And that makes it easier to network and approach if people know you. So if you send an email out to 10 people and 8 of them have read something that you've posted on LinkedIn before and thought it was great, they're far more likely to respond. Your message response rate goes up massively. You start to get referrals because people think you're credible and you're smart and you say good things, and so they refer their friends to you. And you get people commenting and inbound leads all the time, which leads to more candidates, more inbound leads, as I said, and you stand out from the typical recruiters. How many recruiters just do the basics of the job? They cold call candidates, they put people through a process, and they don't really do anything else to help people outside of that. Posting great content that people like to read sets you apart. You're no longer a recruiter. You're somebody that is a thought leader, and you're somebody that they enjoy reading posts from. You're somebody that they turn to for a distraction from work sometimes, to read your posts and to either have a laugh if it's something funny, or to get some useful information if it's an interesting, engaging post about something that's happening in the market. You become more than just a recruiter, and that is incredibly important. So, some examples of what's worked for me. These are by no means the best posts in the world, and they didn't get the most traction. There are posts out there with thousands of likes and comments and shares, but these are just some examples. So on the left there, switching off was harder than I thought. That was one where at the time I had fewer than 10,000 connections. I think I was on about maybe 7,000, but that post got nearly 60,000 views, 314 likes and 29 comments. And it wasn't anything spectacular. I mean, the picture's great. That was on top of Mount Rigi in Lucerne in Switzerland. And I had gone away there on gardening leave between jobs and was just reading a book up there and was just thinking about work and how hard it is to switch off. And I was thinking about a new job coming up. And at that point, I just thought, that's interesting. Like, I bet a lot of people, when they go away on holiday or go away to take time off, still think about work. And so I just wrote a post about that. It was something that had happened in my life. It wasn't anything crazy to come up with. It was just a thought that I had that I thought people might find interesting. And they did, because it resonated with a lot of people. Others have been in the same situation where they've been either on holiday or somewhere beautiful or amazing and miles away from work, and they're still thinking about work and struggling to switch off. So because people had a similar thought, they engaged with it. So it doesn't have to be a blog post about economics or business or what's happening in the world of banking or politics. It can be something that's just personal to you, but if other people have resonated with it, then it's going to take off and get lots of engagement. So the middle one was a video that my previous company had done. They used to do employer brand videos. I just shared it as content and put some interesting text alongside it. So you're struggling to hire because people don't want to work for you. It's quite an emotive first line. People are obviously going to either take that very positively or very negatively. And it was just some good content that my company had produced, and I decided to write a post around it. And if you look on the right, there's a couple of people who engaged with it very strongly. So Tristan worked for a company called Vonk, who my last company ended up partnering with. I brought Tristan over from Amsterdam for a meeting, and there was a good business collaboration there just off the back of this. I'd never spoken to him before. He commented on this video because they had actually done some marketing for the same company that was involved in the video. And then the person below got some really, really good information from it and really enjoyed the video. And he said at the bottom, "Thank you for a very inspiring and motivating answer." I can't remember what I wrote, but I assume it was inspiring and motivating. But it's another great business connection, and it all looks really, really good. And that was just literally a video that the company produced. I didn't really do anything. I just posted it and wrote some content around it. So types of content. Video is the first one, which is always the most scary and often the worst done. I see all the time on LinkedIn, people walking down the street, chatting about nonsense, and I have absolutely no interest in what they have to say. I think people do these video job specs, which always come across terribly because the people are nervous, they're sat in a rubbish room, the sound is off, the lighting's off, doesn't reflect well. And so people are scared by videos. Videos can, though, be done incredibly well. When we talk about personality and the rules of personal brand, there's no better way of getting your personality across than doing a video and showing yourself. But it has to be done well. So rather than just doing the same as everyone else and doing a video interview or walking down the street and talking about your day, think about what cool, interesting video content you can put out there. You could video yourself interviewing a candidate about their experience with your company. You could, I don't know, video a pitch to send to a client, or just a general pitch about your business, and you can edit it with cutaway shots of the office. There's lots of things you can do depending on your marketing capabilities, but video can be very powerful if done well, but it's also risky if done badly. So when you're putting together a video to share anywhere on social media, just sense check it with other people within the business and make sure the quality is high enough. But it's one of those things where if you do it right, it's great. A much simpler start for anyone who's looking at getting into doing some personal branding stuff is LinkedIn post, like the ones I just showed you on the previous slide. They're very straightforward. You can write one in 5 minutes, get it posted, and all of a sudden you've got 60,000 people viewing it. It's still very effective, especially when done continuously and on consecutive weeks. If you do it like 1 month and another one 3 months later, you're not necessarily going to get lots of traction, but you build momentum through LinkedIn posting because you get more and more people engaging and following with what you have to say. It can just be straightforward text. It could be a photo that you shared alongside some text. It could even be a video that you haven't necessarily done yourself, but you've shared a video that your company's put together and you've done some text alongside it. There's lots of things that you can do for a LinkedIn post, but write about things that interest you. Write about things that you genuinely find engaging yourself because other people are going to there. So when producing content, rather than just the type of content, you've also got to make sure it ticks certainly one of the following, preferably most of them. It has to be interesting, funny, helpful, thought-provoking or emotion-provoking, something that people think but don't say, and then it has to resonate. So you won't get all of these necessarily. I think the top 3 are relatively obvious as to what that means. Thought or emotion provoking, you'll see videos shared on LinkedIn about sad looking dogs and cats. I think that's cheating. Yes, people might like it because it provokes an emotion in them, but it's not necessarily going to be that original, or it's certainly not leadership. So try not to do that as often as you can, although every once in a while a happy dog video on LinkedIn goes a long way in making people feel better. Something that people think but don't say is genuinely very powerful. There's a lot of the times where, especially if you're watching this, you might be looking at starting a personal brand. You might have thought in the past, other people have posted things that you wish you'd posted that you found really interesting, but it's a little bit too rogue or potentially controversial for you personally to post it. And so you like it. Because they've posted it, you automatically like it, because it's far easier to like something controversial that you think than to actually say something controversial that you think. And so if you do post something that others think but don't say, I guarantee a lot of people will like or comment on it because you've done the thing that they wanted to do but didn't necessarily have the guts to do. And then must resonate. If you post something that nobody agrees with, you're probably not going to get much engagement unless it's something that they so strongly disagree with that they want to challenge you on it. The worst thing you can post, in my opinion, is something that's just vanilla. It's just a nothing post. They neither agree nor disagree nor have any opinion on it whatsoever. It's just a non-statement. And a lot of people do this. They feel the need to post something, and so they just post a thought that they have that doesn't really resonate with anyone and nobody really cares. Something like, I work best when I've had 8 hours sleep. Great, that's wonderful, good for you. I don't really care. And so, it doesn't resonate with me. It's just a non-statement. So have a think about what people are going to read and think, yeah, you know what? I really do agree with that strongly, or I really disagree with that strongly and I want to engage. So something that makes people feel something and want to comment. So those are the kind of ticks that you should look at when posting something on LinkedIn, for example. So how to write a LinkedIn post. This is entirely my opinion. Please do not take this as gospel. I tend to just have this sort of structure. So you'll see this is just one example of a post. I normally start with something that I call the hook. I'm sure other people call the hook. It's generally accepted marketing term, which is the first thing people will see. Now, if you've used LinkedIn before, and I tend to focus on LinkedIn as a platform, it's the same with anything, then there is a lot on there. You will sometimes scroll really quickly and only stop at things you find interesting. Now, if you post something on LinkedIn, it's normally collapsed and you only see the first couple of lines. And so if you're scrolling past and those first two lines aren't particularly interesting, people are just going to scroll straight past and not read what you have to say. So that first line has to be engaging enough for them to stop their rapid scrolling and click the see more button so that they can actually view the rest of your post. So on this one, I put recruiters should only work roles if they're exclusive. Now, that's obviously emotive. Recruiters are going to read down and think, yeah, I agree. I want exclusive roles. And clients are going to think, I completely disagree. If I give it to one recruiter and they don't find me anyone, I'm stuffed. I should give it to 10 recruiters because it's 10 times the chance that I'll find a good candidate. So either of those people, whether they agree or disagree, are probably going to read on. People who agree are going to read on because they think, I want to find out more about this guy who's agreeing with what I have to say. And the people who disagree are going to think, I want to read more so that I can argue with him and make my point about why he's completely wrong. So the next bit is to expand. You can't just write a hook, because if I just wrote that top line, it doesn't really say anything. I mean, it does, but they don't know whether I'm for that or against that or what I'm actually trying to say deep down. So expand on it. So the problem is companies think of recruiters as a low quality service and therefore need to engage lots of agencies to increase their chances of making a hire. You need to stop this. There are agencies like that for sure, but you shouldn't want to work with them. So I'm starting to make a point here, which is around why recruiters should only work on roles if they're exclusive and why clients should give us exclusive roles. You want to expand on the point because it helps to, get the people who agree with you to really understand why you're saying that. And for the people to disagree with you, you're trying to persuade them of why they should agree with you. So you have to expand on it. And then step 3 is make a point. So this is what it comes down to. This is what I say to anyone. Whenever you're making a post, the first thing, although it's in this order right now, just in terms of the way it's laid out, the most important thing is to discover what is the point of what you're trying to say. If you don't have a point, don't make a post. I've seen so many people who write a post and it has about 5 or 6 really good points in there, all of which could be their own individual post, but them just putting them all into one because they're just saying things. Pick something really important you want to say, narrow it down to be as specific as possible, and then build a post around that. So with this, the point that I'm making is around the services of recruitment and how to use them properly as a client, which is to trust people. So I used a story here about a tailor, which is if you want to buy a really nice suit, you don't go to a high street shop, you go to a top tailor. They will take time discovering what you want and use their expertise to deliver. Imagine if you then said to the tailor, oh, by the way, I saw 5 other tailors today. Whoever makes me the suit first will get my money. They'll tell you to do one, which is very true. And that analogy would basically tell clients that they're treating recruiters in the wrong way. They should treat recruiters like a high quality service. And that's the point I'm trying to make here with this post. And sometimes it takes a metaphor or analogy to make that point. So the final thing is related to real life situation. So take it back away from the analogy. So if you want the best level of service, pick a great agency, let them take the time to understand your business with the safety of knowing their work is worthwhile, and see what they have to offer when all their attention is on you. If you pick the right company, you need never use another one again. So conclude with a clear message. If you pick the right company, you need never use another one again. Pick a good recruiter, trust them, and have them work in a way that serves everyone best. That's the point I'm trying to make, and that's what all of this post is around. So if you have that point that you want to make, work backwards from that. Realistically, the hook is the last bit. The hook's easy. Anyone can write something a little bit controversial or engaging to get people interested. But the main thing is, what's your point? How do you prove that point to anyone who's going to disagree with you? And what tools can you use, whether it's analogy or metaphor or real life examples, whatever it is. So some tips: write it without thinking about it and go back and cut out as much as you can. This is something I do. I write so much, far too much content, and then have to go back. But if I was concentrating on keeping it to a bare minimum from the start, I'd spend so long just worrying about that, I would never get anything written down. So I just write down tons and tons and tons, and then go back and cut out anything that I don't need. Write it in your tone of voice. Don't be afraid to make jokes. I don't think there's any jokes in this one, but it's still in my tone of voice. And then the final one, don't worry if people won't like it. If some people hate it, others will love it. If you sit there and worry about how many people are going to like it, you'll just never click post. Don't worry. Some people probably will dislike it. Try not to write anything too controversial. Don't write about religion or too political or any of those sensitive topics where if people disagree, they disagree very strongly. Try and keep it relatively safe, but don't be afraid to be controversial. And then coming towards the end now, make a plan and stick to it. So this is my example posting plan. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 of the month, what I'm going to post, whether that's a video, a LinkedIn post, or post about an event or run an event. These are all things to improve personal brand. And I just basically made a 6-month plan with all of these things. And then on the right, you see some ideas for topics. If I ever have any new ideas, I'll just add it to that topic list. And then, usually each week the ideas will just pop into my head and I'll write something based on what I've seen or done that week. But if I'm running low on ideas, I'll just have a look at this list and then try and build an idea off the back of that. And then that's it. So thank you very much for watching. Obviously, you can't send me any questions, but if you are watching this and you don't know me, feel free to send a question to adam@justsearch.com and I will happily answer any questions that you have on this topic. So thank you very much.